Poteen was made from potato, sugar and yeast in earlier times, and later from barley. It takes about 3 weeks to ferment and then is taken in for distilling. The liquid, which is called the wash, is transferred into the barrel over the fire, which is concealed. On the right hand side you have a further barrel containing the worm. I'll get out of here.
You're right, yeah.
Contains the worm. The worm is this coil up here. It's encased into the barrel on the right, with the bottom section of it coming out over the basin on the ground, and the other end is hooked to the barrel over the fire. The barrel on the right is filled with cold water, because when they start to boil the barrel of wash, the steam then escapes through the pipe, hits the cold water, condenses, flowing into the basin on the ground as pure alcohol. It will be distilled 2 or 3 times, with the very first alcohol coming from the still, taken in a glass in the right hand and thrown over the left shoulder for the fairies. Shahagoi Beagol. Because they believed in the power of the fairies. If the fairies didn't get a drop of drink, they believed they'd be offended, come along, destroy the poteen making process, or alternatively let off their vengeance by interfering with the children. And as kids, we were told the stories of the changelings, where mother placed her child in the cradle going to bed at night. She got up in the morning and she found that child dead or sick. She made a dispute that wasn't her child at all, saying this was the work of the fairies, who had taken her healthy child or left a sick one behind in its place. The poet Yeats may too have been referring to the same in his poem The Stolen Child, when he said, "Come away, O human child, to the waters and the wild, with the fairy hand in hand in the world full of weeping. She you can't understand." So to try and make some sense out of this part of life, I realised first of all it's suppressed by the state, it's illegal to make. And often those people involved in making poteen were castigated, denounced from the pulpit on Sunday, and told they would never enjoy peace, happiness or contentment. But the reality of life is survival, and against all the odds they continued to make poteen, but didn't do so without also bearing in mind the fact that their children were possibly vulnerable to spirits. So they set about to try and save their little children, particularly boys, who seemingly were more vulnerable than girls. They allowed the boys with long cools of hair, and then dressed them in skirts, so that if the fairies came they wouldn't know the difference between boys and girls. And that is why I believe many Irish boys were in skirts well and truly into their teens, not why we might be led to believe by people who tried to make a skit out of that part of Irish life by saying silly things like boys were in skirts because mothers were too lazy to put a trouser on us, but rather from the fire and brimstone theology and a deep respect too to the fairy world outside, for which the Irish landscape is renowned and cultured for. And about 14-15 years ago a family visited here. With that family was a lady in her 90s whom God called about 8-9 years ago now. And the day that that woman was here, she told numerous stories that I had the privilege of recording. And one of her stories that I quote her from is one where she talked of herself as a child, 9 or 10 years old. One day she said, "My mother gave me a skirt, and I felt honoured and proud and so excited when I got this skirt. And I was going around the house then doing jobbings, helping my mother the best I could, and sporting this skirt, when a neighbouring woman came visiting me mother. Seeing me in the skirt, she called me over. 'Kathleen is storing,' she said. 'Where did you get the beautiful dress?' And I told her I got it when Pádraig became a boy. Pádraig was my brother. He was 3 years older than me, and I thought he'd grown up and become a boy when mother took the skirt off him and gave it to me. But years later, my mother explained to me that the reason Pádraig was in the skirt was my father made poteen at the end of the garden in Cashel Street in Cashel. My mother was demented in case the fairies had stale him, for she was already after losing 2 baby boys. And that was Kate Hennigan from the Market Square in Castlebar, and it summed up that fear then that was associated with doing something illegal or immoral.
Do you ever know Mike McGowan?
Mike I did, from Tumor.
Yeah.
Oh Jesus, thank you, good.
Did he make any?
Oh, I know, Mike said, Mike was once asked when he was in the hospital with my dad, the two of them were in hospital, and Mike, the doctor came around, Dr. Murphy, and he said, "Mike," he said, "you have an awful twist in your hand." He said, "What's that from?" He said, "I got burdened with hot tea." He said.